Out that this was a long time coming, and then the judge ordered the bailiff to have him removed from the courtroom. He walked out on his own. I'm told that Wanda Cooper, Ahmaud Arbery's mother, was holding her hands with people who she was seated with in the courtroom, praying as this verdict was read. And when that first guilty verdict was read, you could hear the cries and the screams in the air here where I'm standing right now, across the street from the courthouse. They're still screaming in joy right now as we speak because of this verdict. And it is somewhat of a mixed verdict, but not really, because only one of the murder charges, it only took one to guarantee any of the defendants who got that murder charge life in prison. That's the minimum sentence for a murder charge in the state of Georgia, and all three of them will be looking at that at this point.
Yeah, these defendants made the case that this was a citizen's arrest, that they were defending themselves, but the prosecution said you can't claim self-defense if you are the aggressor, if you provoke the situation. And as we see here, the jury agreeing with the prosecution. So let's go ahead and bring in our chief ABC News legal analyst, Dan Abrams. Again, we're trying to just explain the complexities of these mixed verdicts here, but what's the bottom line to you? Are you surprised at all?
I don't think there are any real surprises here. So let's understand exactly what they've decided. They basically determined, based on the facts, who's responsible for what. Travis McMicheal was the one who actually fired the shotgun, and they're saying he's more culpable here. He's guilty of the highest form of murder in this case. Gregory Mcmicheal, his father, guilty of all of the other charges. Now remember, the 4 felony murder charges all connect to the 4 felonies below it. Felony murder means in the course of committing a felony, someone is killed, and therefore you can be charged with murder for just having the intent to have committed the felony. So you see that Gregory Mcmicheal is convicted of all of the felonies, and then obviously of all of the felony murders in connection with that. And then you go over to Roddie Bryan's case, and you see that the one count he was not convicted of, which was both the felony of aggravated assault with a shotgun, he was not convicted of the felony murder count in connection with that. Why? These jurors clearly believed that he wasn't responsible for the use of the shotgun, that he may not have known that they necessarily had a gun, but that he was guilty of unlawful imprisonment, criminal attempt to commit a felony, all of the other charges, and that since death ensued, that's felony murder. But as Steve said, bottom line here is they're all convicted of murder. They're all facing the possibility of life in prison.
Dan, I want to turn to our ABC News contributor and legal analyst, Shauna Lloyd. She's joining us as well. And Shauna, I wanted to just point out the testimony from Travis McMicheal, as Dan pointed out. He's the one who pulled the trigger. You know, the defense put him on the stand. Looking at it now, was that perhaps a mistake, a misfire for the defense in some way or another? The prosecution picked apart what he said and was able to expose some inconsistencies between his testimony in court and what he initially told police.
So typically, in these types of cases are occurring, the defendant is the only person, the person who did the shooting and is claiming self-defense is the only person that can refute all of this testimony and evidence that has come in. So this was his only shot at appealing to the jury in this particular case. His previous testimony and his previous statements to the officers were not in a very good light, and the only person that could have tried to dispute them would have been him. So I think they had a one shot and they took it.
Steve Osunsami, I'd like to bring you back into this conversation.
You got my email?
Steve, if you can hear me, I just wanted to bring you back here because you've been covering this case for so long. Race, of course, was at the center of this case from the very beginning. We saw the prosecution pointed out saying that because he was a black man running down the street, that is why Ahmaud Arbery is dead. There was controversy inside the courtroom based on some comments that one of the defense attorneys said. We know that there have been protests outside the courtroom. Steve, can you just break down how much of a factor race was in this case and the trial from the beginning?
It defined the case. It was a part of the case from the very beginning.